Hello, welcome to No Social Dilemma. I'm Stephanie Smith, Head of Social over at Tonic.
Hi everyone, I'm Marcus Body and I'm Head of Branded Insight at Tonic.
At Tonic, we build talent brands that people want to work for. But we think there's a problem with the way that people go about thinking about those people, and in particular how they group them together and then try to connect with them. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to show a way to rethink how you understand those audiences, and it's a way that's going to be much more effective when you're thinking about brand raising rather than filling jobs. And actually, it makes content creation and using social much, much easier.
Putting your audience at the heart of your social media strategy is key. It's why many have a goal of building a larger, more engaged community of followers. So let's quickly remind ourselves what we mean when we talk about online communities. They're groups of individuals who communicate with one another about shared goals, passions, or fandoms. So some examples might include expats groups, where individuals share a goal to live comfortably and happily overseas. Or video games, where players might share a passion for a particular game, genre, or video games as a whole. And music, where fans of particular artists want to feel really close to their hero and cluster around them to hear their latest news. Facilitating community and bringing people together is very much at the core of all social media. It's front and centre of Facebook's mission statement. Give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. So we need to remind ourselves social media was not built as an advertising platform. It was built for people to connect with each other. And as brands, social media is always borrowed ground. So there are two main strategies brands use to slot into social media's universe of personal networking. And the first is what I like to call the Pinocchio Approach. So in essence, this is where a brand like Eon acts like a person on social media and joins communities that already exist, like interior design. This approach is favoured by brands who don't have a natural talkability about them. Electricity suppliers are a great example because although we all need electricity in our daily lives, it's not something we find exciting to talk about. But for employer brands, it's a risky strategy because it takes our messaging far away from what our marketing needs to do, essentially letting people know about opportunities at our company and why they should work for us rather than anywhere else. The second approach is what I call the Campfire Approach, which is much more common. And here, brands like Donut Time act as the campfire for related communities to gather around. So brands emphasize niche interests like donuts that people are already talking about, and they simply provide a space for that conversation to happen. This is the approach that most employer brands take. But here we face a dilemma. The campfire community can only form if the people in it have something in common and they're excited to talk about it. So in employer branding, we're trying to connect with a diverse and varied group of people, whether they're diverse by profession, age, location, or just personality. So how can we encourage conversation and interaction amongst this group of people when they're all so different from each other? And the thing that they have in common, the possibility of a new job at your company, isn't a natural thing to talk to strangers about. Perhaps we need to think about the people we want to reach and engage in a different way.
In the 1970s, Pepsi were trying to work out how much sweetener they should put into Diet Pepsi. So they commissioned a food consultant called Howard Moskowitz to go and do lots of testing in focus groups where they tried out different recipes to find out, okay, this is going to be the right amount for us to put in. Unfortunately, when he got the data back, it turned out that everybody wanted something different, and actually there wasn't a right answer. As he said to his client at the time, there is no perfect Diet Pepsi, there are only perfect Diet Pepsis. And this problem kept on coming back whenever he was testing products for his clients. Years later, he was working for a spaghetti sauce manufacturer, and they'd asked him again to go and find out the perfect recipe, and they cooked up lots of different batches and he tested them with different audiences. And he again noticed there wasn't a clear answer, and people had different preferences. But the real breakthrough moment was when he realised that in fact what he had in front of him was three tribes. And that what he'd really found was that amongst the great American public, there was a tribe of people who like plain spaghetti sauce, there's a tribe of people who like spicy spaghetti sauce, and there was a tribe who like chunky spaghetti sauce. And actually that last one was really exciting for his client because they'd never thought of catering to that audience separately. And they realised that the answer was not to come up with the ideal recipe, it was to come up with three ideal recipes, but that those recipes are defined by what people want from you. And I think there's something really useful we can take from that into the world of employer branding. Because unfortunately, that's not where we tend to begin with employer branding. We tend to begin by thinking about our audience in terms of what we want from them and what they mean to us. So by that, I mean we tend to think about our audiences by where do they fit on the org chart, or what hiring target are they fulfilling for us. So we tend to think about graduate engineers or female IT professionals or senior lateral hires. And there's a problem here because we're assuming that everyone in that category wants the same thing from us, in the same way that you might assume that everyone who buys spaghetti sauce wants the same one. And in reality, people are quite different and more complicated than that. And what we might find if we started looking into what is it that they actually want from you as an employer, we might find that there's people in very, very different parts of the org chart who are actually looking for similar things from you. So what happens if we flip this thinking on its head, and instead of looking people at the boxes that we tended to put them in, we start to think about them in terms of what they want from us? Now, if we do this, this revolutionises the way we can start thinking about communicating with them, because after all, we have now by definition created groups of people who have something in common, which is of course the vital ingredient for a community, but it also makes working out what content they might be interested in a lot easier. So let's start thinking about the tribes that you might have to communicate with. And I always think the easiest place to think about the people you already employ within your organisation. Why are they working for you, and what is it that they want from you? And I think there are a few tribes we can fairly easily say will exist within your organisation. So first off, there are bound to be within your organisation some people who are what I would call enthusiasts. Now, an enthusiast is someone who loves their job in and of itself. They like doing their job, they like learning how to do it better, and they don't like things like admin and paperwork and anything that takes them away from doing that thing. There might also be a population of people who we could call earners. Now, earners are people who might quite like their job, but it is a means to an end. And primarily, they are working for you in order to earn money. And that might be because they want to travel the world, and that might be because they're the main breadwinner in their household. But it does mean that we know that things that are likely to be important to them are obviously rewards, but also things like job security become quite important to that group. What about if we defined a third audience, who let's call them the climbers? And a climber is someone who might at first seem similar to the earner, but actually money's incidental to their real objective, which is status. So if you think about what this person wants, they want an impressive job title, they want to move up your organisation chart, they want to go to meetings with big cheeses, they want to have public stages on which to speak and things to put on their LinkedIn profile. We could define a fourth audience as, I've called it the carer, but it's someone who's got a priority which is something outside of work, which they want work to fit around. And if you think about this kind of person, what are they going to want from you? Well, they're going to want stability, but they're also going to want that flexibility, whether that's remote working or whether that's flexibility in terms of hours. A fifth group might be a team player. So this is someone who enjoys work because of the collaboration with other people. And you get people like this because they're incredibly gregarious. It's what they enjoy about work, is mixing with other people. But equally, you have some people for whom this is absolutely vital motivation precisely because they're not very gregarious and work provides a useful social structure for them. But what that person's going to want is opportunities to collaborate and build their network. Now, what's interesting is even just with these 5 crude groupings, what we can see is the things that are going to be important to them are going to be very, very different. But the kind of content that they're going to want to consume is going to be very, very different. But if we start grouping people in this way, content creation and community engagement just got a whole lot easier.
If we think about enthusiasts as a group, they are going to be inspired by the expertise of your people and the work they're doing. So they'll enjoy seeing behind the scenes at your company, and it could be written interviews with your people or videos that tell the story of a project going from start to finish. They want to hear about how an employer will help them do what they love, whether that's training and development opportunities or an internal culture that encourages self-development via initiatives like study days. Earners value an employer that understands there's more to life than work, and that work might be a means to an end. So stories of colleagues who've taken a sabbatical in order to travel the world using bonuses they've squirreled away for the past 5 years will be very appealing to this tribe. They want to hear about internal mobility, and you could share this through profiles of colleagues with long tenure. They also want assurance that their hard work will be recognised, so use your social media content to show how your organisation does this. Share stories of colleague achievements and how the company's rewarded them. The climber needs to be able to picture themselves achieving success at your company. They want to see your people giving keynote speeches and being interviewed by the industry press. In fact, they might be more engaged by hearing about you via your people, meeting them at networking events, or seeing content made by your people, shared by your company. These individuals are often willing to feature in your content because this gives them something to share on their LinkedIn page. So showcase your existing Climber Tribe members in posts like video profiles. The carer wants to hear about flexible working from your company's perspective, like your policies, and from a personal perspective, like colleagues sharing stories of how they benefit from flexible working. We can also share content about how flexible working brings inclusion benefits, such as allowing colleagues to take time away from their work to fulfill their religious duties. Team players, they don't want to be broadcast at. They value content like live Q&A sessions where they can get involved. They're interested in networking groups and social activities organised through work. And they'll like to hear how teamwork's been facilitated at your company, along with team successes and achievements. Now, you might already be thinking about how to reach these people on social media, like, we could reach talent acquisition team players on LinkedIn, but it might be better to reach web development team players on GitHub. The thing is, you've already segmented your employer brand community into tribes, and segmenting your tribes creates job ad messaging and tactics, which is fine if you're doing job ads, but this won't build a community because you've got too many segments at this point. Community is built around ongoing brand activity and not these very tactical campaigns. So when brand building via social media, you want to focus on using channels and content that appeal to the lion's share of your tribes. And this is likely to align with your company's reputation. So if you're a fashion company, you might prioritize Instagram. So to get going and to activate, start in the place where communities naturally form around professional topics, and that's LinkedIn. This is perfect because all your colleagues are already following there. Well, the ones that have indicated you as an employer on their profile. If you engage your existing people, they will authenticate your messages and prove that what you're saying really is true. And in engaging with your content, liking, commenting, sharing, that will improve the ranking of your content in newsfeed algorithms and allow you to reach more of the followers you already have. It will also start a conversation that candidates might be willing to join. So if we return to the campfire, and now we're looking at the people sat around it in terms of their shared tribal attributes, we can see how someone who also has that same tribal calling might find this an interesting campfire conversation to join in with. So in this way, you've created a campfire that a diverse group of individuals can all gather around. So, to make employer brand on social media better and easier, we suggest you map your tribes and understand what your people want and value from you. Plan your content, show how your company provides your tribes with what they want and value. And then this way, you'll engage the community you already have, your people, and that will create a friendly campfire gathering for candidates to join. If you'd like to chat with either myself or Marcus about tribes, social media strategy, or even chunky spaghetti sauce, scan the QR code and get in touch with us, or you can connect with us directly over on LinkedIn. Thanks.